Wow, I did not realize that your dad started a school. You had a company that was successful enough in high school that you paid for your college tuition. Then you were a DJ and would like work weddings once a week or whatever. Now I see where you learned about being a founder. So tell us the story about how you and Chris and Dan started Weebly at Penn State.
Yeah. So it was part of a class project to start with. So I was running this other company, wasn't growing a ton, but like I said, it was paying the bills. And I was in a class at Penn State where the goal was just to create a web app. And that was kind of an open-ended 400 level class. It was the spring semester of my junior year. So that would have been around February 2006. And in the beginning, I thought, hey, you know what? All students at Penn State had to create e-portfolios, and they're really struggling to do it. I had a friend that I was helping out, and she was struggling to do it on, Front Page or Dreamweaver, whatever the tools were at the time. And so I said, this would be cool. And so I started working on it. And about 48 hours later, I got absolutely obsessed with the problem and said, actually, there's a way better way to create websites. Just the concept of web apps was brand new, actually. Like Gmail had just come out not that long ago. There's some new browser features that were just allowing this to happen. And I just got absolutely obsessed, went in a coding frenzy for the whole semester, and then the 3 weeks after the semester. And then that whole summer, Dan and I worked on it, and then that fall, Chris joined up. And actually, that's when we applied to YC. And and there's a funny story there about applying like an hour before the deadline.
I remember this. You saw like an article about YC and checked us out, and the deadline was in an hour.
It was Slashdot, which really dates the story.
Yes, indeed.
And it was probably around like midnight East Coast time, and so there's still a couple hours left. And so I furiously wrote up an application. I had no time to ask Dan or Chris whether they'd drop out of school and move to San Francisco with me, but I just made some assumptions, submitted the application, called them up the next morning. And Dan, the next morning, Dan said, yeah, this sounds like a really good idea. Like, let me go talk to my parents and I'll call you back in a couple hours. And he called me back and said, yeah, I'd love to do this. And I called up Chris, and just on the spot, he was like, hell yeah, let's do this. So he didn't need much convincing.
You would have had to drop out of your senior year of college, right? Because you guys were just wrapping up your junior year. Is that right?
That's right. We interviewed. Okay. It would have been the fall of 2006. So that was the beginning of our senior year. And then we skipped out on the last semester of school.
Okay. This is where I remember. I remember your interview distinctly because it was in our Cambridge office. There was a TechCrunch article that morning on Weebly, right, which is pretty good timing because you came and you're sort of like, oh, by the way, TechCrunch wrote about us today. We were like, oh, wow, this company has a TechCrunch article on them. We were impressed with you guys. We were impressed that you had actually built something and had some users. And then the whole TechCrunch thing impressed us even more.
We were totally trying to play it cool. We were like, we didn't want to pump it too much, but we kind of casually dropped the TechCrunch thing. And then I remember seeing, I think it was in Trevor's glasses, or maybe it was Robert's glasses. I remember seeing the green glow of the TechCrunch website reflected in his glasses. I was like, all right.
From his computer. He was looking it up.
I was like, all right, they heard what I said.
And didn't Paul call you that night to accept you and say, I'm calling to end your college career?
Yeah, that's exactly what he said.
Can you believe that, Carolyn?
That's hilarious.